John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today I have a very exciting episode for you today. What we're going to do today is we're going to show you a friend's place that's really into gardening. Now you might be saying, hey John, if he's into gardening, how come there's like nothing growing in the front yard? Well, in some cases, if you do have a homeowners association or live in a small home, you maybe don't have a lot of space in your front yard or backyard to grow. So that's what today's video is about. It's about garage growing, or growing food in your garage, which you can easily do. Now the setup today, I'm gonna forewarn you guys, is like the super duper uber production setup for growing food. This guy, his major hobby is hydroponic gardening, and in most cases people think hydroponic gardening and they think medicinal herbs, or growing medicinal herbs, but you could also grow fruits and vegetables inside your garage with some elaborate setups that we're going to see today. So with the advent of new homes popping up all over, the new thing with home builders is building high and building multiple stories to pack in the square footage and making that lot size as small as possible, because real estate's really valuable. And if you're a home gardener and a home grower, I would encourage you to buy the largest lots or largest property you can with the smallest house you can, so that you'll have enough space to grow as much food as you want. In any case, let's see how my friend today is growing food inside his garage. So let's head inside. Now we're inside the house, and this is the door leading to the garage, which is a gardener's playland inside, man. So let's check it out. In this single car garage, there's just several different areas with things growing on and a whole stockpile of different nutrients and things like that. But the two areas I want to show you guys today is, number one, this is compost tea brewing. Compost tea is very important. It's the nutrition for your plants. And number two, the next big thing we'll show you in a minute is literally the grow room. So right here we have the Bounty brew kit. This is a 4-gallon kit. And what's going on here is inside you can see this bubbling up. And this is basically a super high power air stone that's basically adding micro bubbles to the compost. Now the micro bubbles, or bubbling your compost tea, is very important because, you know, just like fish need oxygen to breathe that's dissolved inside the water, and we need oxygen to breathe, the bacteria also needs the oxygen to basically replicate and reproduce. So the more oxygen you could pack in the water, the better the bacteria is gonna grow. My friend here, man, he's like the indoor gardening expert. He knows far more than I'll ever know, so he was actually schooling me on some of this stuff. So let me show you guys some of the differences. So he's got the Super Duty bubbler, which actually I'm really happy. He gave me one today, so I'm so privileged to get one. This is called the Single Micro Pour Oxygen Diffuser. Now the difference between this bubbler and a standard bubbler that you could get in an aquarium shop, or actually just the other day I was at the 99-cent store and I got this bubbler, and I was like, yeah, I got a bubbler for 99 cents. And you know, this will work. This is made for aquariums, and this disperses bubbles to keep the tank oxygenated. But this will also work for brewing compost tea. Now don't get one of those small little bubblers. That's not going to do a lot, but this is the size I'd recommend. And once again, I thought I was doing pretty good for 99 cents for this guy. Now these guys will wear out over time. So if you want to step up, you could get, like, you know, the more industrial version. And that's this guy right here. But even better than this guy is the one I was just showing you that I just got, is this guy. And on the package here you can see the bubble size. So the bubble size for a cheap air stone, which is maybe like this guy, a cheap air stone, is 20 millimeters, and it's a large bubble. Maybe going to an oxygen shield, it makes a 3-millimeter bubble. But going to the micro pour oxygen diffuser in this box that will open up, it's a 0.25 millimeter bubbler. So by far, this is the best bubbler money could buy to oxygenate your compost. Now that being said, you know, you don't need to invest in the most expensive bubbler to get the smallest bubbles to get the most oxygen, unless you're really fanatical like my gardener friend here, my indoor gardening friend. He just goes to the max just to do everything right. But you know, so I'm glad I have one now, otherwise I would have just had the 99 cents one. Nothing wrong with the 99 cents one, once again. And just like in gardening, you'll see all different levels. You know, you could garden literally throw some seeds out, 20-cent seeds you got at Walmart, and you could pretty much garden it for nothing. You could go collect wild seeds. You could collect wild dandelion seeds for free and plant those out. Start a garden for nothing. So once again, 99 cents for a garden, or I don't know how much these guys run, but they're probably a pretty penny. But it all depends on how much money you got and how much money and time you want to invest into your gardening lifestyle. Besides oxygenating your compost tea, what's very important is that you monitor the temperature where the microbes and the water is going to hold the most oxygen and be the best. So he has a thermometer here which basically shows it's about 66.5 degrees Fahrenheit currently inside here. Now the optimal temperature for these guys are maybe like 65 degrees to 70 degrees to allow for their proliferation. If it gets too cold or too hot, they're not going to reproduce as well. So you don't want to be like brewing a compost tea outside in the middle of winter. Or you don't want to be doing that in the middle of summer when it's too hot. Maybe like inside your house in the garage is actually a really good place to brew some compost tea so that the bacteria can flourish. So remember, oxygenation and temperature, super critical. So the compost tea is literally what he is feeding his plants. In this barrel here, he has a barrel, and basically he's got another bubbler in this barrel, and he's basically oxygenating his water. And in this barrel, he does a reverse osmosis system to take all the minerals out and all the bad things such as chloramine, chlorine, and possibly fluoride if they fluorinate here from the city water to basically put into his grow room. Now I always encourage all my viewers to filter their water whenever possible, or even better yet, just use rainwater that doesn't have all the chemicals like the chlorine. In addition, he has good stuff, good organic stuff to grow with, such as the neem oil. Now I definitely recommend the neem oil. This has worked really well for me, for preventing aphids and other small bugs on my crops by diluting it down and literally spraying it on my plants. Once again, this is organic and OMRI listed, so it's very important to look for OMRI listed products that would be able to be used on organic produce, because hopefully you're also going to want to grow organically at home and not spray those toxic chemicals on your plants that literally you're going to eat, because then guess what? You're going to end up eating those toxic chemicals too, so that's not too good. Before we get into the main event here in the garage, we're going to show you this, and right here, this is literally a paint can filled with organic heirloom seeds. And this is from Baker Creek Seed Company. And I don't even have one of these, but once again, a paint can is an excellent place to store your seeds. You want to make sure that paint can is sealed tight so no air gets in there, no moisture gets in there, and you might want to put some of those desiccant packs in there because moisture is actually the true enemy of seeds. But in any case, Baker Creek Seed or rareseeds.com sells this package. This is packed for 2012. This is the large heirloom package. And this paint can has over 25 types of vegetables and 60 varieties in here. Basically, these are the seeds you'll need if you're trying to be a prepper or store seeds just in case something happens. You'll have a full supply of a wide variety of seeds. Now, these seeds are also available for your geographic region. These are actually the southern large package, and they also have a northern large package. So if you want to be prepared just in case, highly recommend getting their seed package. Not only is this a good deal, but it has many varieties contained within it so that you'll be able to grow the food if you need to. This is the main event right here behind me. This is a 4.5 foot by 9 foot grow room. Now, this is probably over and above what some people can afford or would want to do. Now, my friend here, he has a major hobby of growing things hydroponically and just even in soilless mediums, because that's what he does for fun. Many people have old cars they invest thousands of dollars in, and he wants to spend his money on growing indoors, and I see nothing wrong with that. I keep kind of nudging him to like, hey man, grow some stuff outside, but inside, literally what he's doing, he's researched the technology to emulate nature, because that's what this grow room does. He has temperature controls, humidity controls, CO2 monitors, lighting. Basically, he can control almost all the variables that would be in nature. So we're in January right now, and outside right now, tomatoes aren't going to be growing, but he has tomato plants that he literally started almost a little bit over a month ago that's flowering and going to be soon setting fruit, so him and his family will be able to eat fresh tomatoes very soon. In any case, modeling nature is what he's trying to do, but all of us, if you're outdoor gardeners, we can easily model nature and work with nature because we're growing outside, so we don't need all this kind of setup. That being said, I'm going to mention some tips to you that you may be able to use if you do want to grow things inside in the winter under supplemental lighting. So let's check out this huge grow room. Now we're going to enter the grow room. There's basically these zippers on here. We're just going to go ahead and unzip this. Man, and it is bright in here. Normally a setup like this is used to grow medicinal herbs inside, but guess what? You could also grow your vegetables inside. Now, for many people, once again, this is going to be like an overkill. A setup like this is definitely not needed. This is like the ultimate setup, you know. But I'm making this video once again to show you guys what is possible, and once again, I'm going to give you some tips to show you what you could do very easily without even an expensive setup like this. So inside here, you can see he has all kinds of plants growing. These are literally seedling tomato plants that he started. And over there, he has some tomatoes, heirloom tomatoes that are in that are setting flower, pretty soon to be set fruit. Over here is a goji berry plant growing inside. Here are some basil plants. And actually, here's a large basil they've actually been harvesting from. Looks nice and healthy, man. Way better than the ones I've been growing outside in the summertime. And here's even a pomegranate tree started from seed. Next, let's talk about some of the equipment that's in here that he's using to emulate nature. Number one, nothing's going to grow without light. So he has some HPS, high pressure sodium lights, and we'll blind the camera there for a second. These guys are super bright. And these lights have a controller up here that's hanging from above to control the light output, basically to preheat them and get them running right. And he totally like dials in the lighting to make it emulate nature. So for example, in the middle of tomato season, if you're growing them outside, there's long daylight hours. It's like a 12-hour day. So that's what he's trying to emulate, you know, when they're up and growing. And once the season goes on longer, the days start to get shorter, and that the amount of light will help to one of the ways that it signals the plants to actually start producing fruit instead of being in the vegetative growth stage. So once again, he's got the setup here to model nature. Up here, of course, we got the sticky traps. So I would encourage you to use sticky traps. I think using them indoors is actually especially smart because, you know, they're not going to get wet and they're just going to work really good. Another thing he could do to emulate nature is actually do a ladybug release inside here. The ladybugs wouldn't be able to escape, and they take care of any bug problems if he had any. Let's see. Oh man, this thing is really cool. So I've always wondered if there's a thing like this. What this is the Home Data Direct by LaCrosse Technology. And you can see here there's a little antenna on here. And this antenna is a remote sender. It sends over to his wireless network. And what it does, it sends him the temperature to his email address or to his cell phone so that he could monitor the temperature in here. If it goes above or below a certain range, it'll message him to let him know. So I hope to get one of these soon, actually have these outside in my garden to post the temperature in my garden online for all my viewers to see. If you want more info on this, it's weatherdirect.com is a website. Right here, this little thing hanging that doesn't look like much, this is like one of the latest and greatest LED lights. And I tried to look in this earlier and it was literally blinding me. Let's see if I could plug that in for you guys here. Now this is one of the brightest LED lights. I mean, there's like a light cluster, and this thing, well, like, check it out. It's probably blinded the camera there for a second. Now you could notice this thing's putting out like a red and blue light because that's the color of the spectrum that plants need to grow the best. That being said, this spectrum and LED lights are optimal for vegetative growth, but they don't have like enough power or enough light to put out to basically get the plants to flower, set fruit, and set seeds. If that's what you're going for, that's where you would need something like a more powerful HPS or high pressure sodium light. So how can this be useful to you and to me? Well, the LEDs or some fluorescent tube lights would be excellent, once again, for vegetative growth. What's vegetative growth? That's when the plants are just growing the leaves. They're simple plants and they're not complex. Complex plants are better with the HPS like tomatoes and peppers. But if you want to grow inside, all you need is an LED light or some fluorescent tubes, some T5s, full spectrum lighting to get your lettuce and other leafy green crops such as herbs growing. If you want tomatoes and peppers to do well inside, you want to get something like an HPS light that's going to put a lot more output to provide the plants enough photosynthesis and energy to literally set the fruit. In addition, inside here he has a controller. This controller here basically tells them the CO2 percentage in here and the temperature and the humidity levels. Now, why is that important? Well, because inside his garage it could be really cold if it's not an insulated garage, but with these lights, the lights actually produce heat as a byproduct. So with this controller he can control fans that come on, and you can see he has the HPS lighting vented to the outside, so a lot of the heat is drawn out. But he might want to keep some of the heat in because, once again, he wants to model nature inside this enclosed grow room. Once again, that has the reflective panels on the outside, so it reflects light so the plants can get the most light. It maintains the temperature, so he's maintaining the optimal temperature for outside. And currently, what temperature is it inside here? I don't know, but I'm sweating. Next, let's go ahead and show you what he's growing in and the containers he's using. So first off, he's using these grow bags. Now these grow bags, the fabric pots, I would encourage you to use. They're much smarter to use than the standard nursery pots. Nursery pots are large, big to store, they take a lot of room. These guys, you could literally fold them flat, they're easily shippable, and plus they have the benefit of being able to basically naturally root prune the plants, which is going to mean the plants is going to have a stronger root system, and when the plants have a stronger root system, they're going to grow larger and produce more for you. So he has that as the bag, plus these guys got handles on them. They're really simple and easy to move should you want to reposition and change the ordering of the plants inside here. So in this grow bag he has a basil plant, but also I want to talk about the mixture he's using. Now this mixture is a little bit different than the mixture I would use. He has kind of like more of the hydroponic mentality where he wants to just give the plant exactly what it needs and the proportion it needs so that it can do the best. And for me, what I tend to do is I tend to kind of model nature more. You know, if I had a raised bed or if plants were growing in the forest, I want them to grow in that same exact material, you know, in soil. He's usually actually using a soilless medium, although this looks like soil. What this is basically a coconut coir, sphagnum peat moss, and some vermiculite, and a few other minerals in there to basically give it some good nutrients. And then he pours his compost tea on here, which literally is just the nutrients for the plant, everything it needs so that it can be healthy. And let me tell you, these plants look amazing in here. So once again, if you want to model nature the most, you can give the plant exactly what it needs when it needs it, but then you have a lot of more calculations and you need to be really on the ball, in my opinion, versus you could kind of take the lazy man's approach, which is my approach. You know, just mix up compost and some of this stuff to keep the moisture, and that's why I use the coconut coir and the sphagnum and the perlite or vermiculite in my mixtures to keep it aerated. And nothing wrong with his method of doing, but it takes a lot more calculations and being precise, because I mean literally you know, there's not a whole lot of margin for error if you're not growing in compost. If you're doing a soilless, if you're not providing enough nutrients or too much, you could burn your plants, damage your plants a lot. So definitely not too good to do if you're unexperienced. So keep it and stick to a soil-based mixture if you're not totally sure what you're doing. So I do use the coconut coir, vermiculite, and the sphagnum in some of my potted mixes that I grow inside my greenhouse to maintain moisture, but I also continually dump more compost to feed the plants. No matter which way you choose to grow, whether you want to grow in a soilless or soiled medium, you know, that's totally up to you. I'm just showing you all the options available you can use. And you know, which is better? Well, if you're really good on giving the plant exactly what it needs and dialed into that system probably will outproduce nature. Because I mean, you're basically emulating nature like we're doing in this whole grow room. So he's got it down to a science, but it takes a lot more time. Check it out here. Manny's got some tomatoes fruiting in January. So unless you live in South Florida or somewhere like the tropics, I mean, we are here in California now, you're not going to be having any fresh tomatoes anytime soon. And that's why he's doing it. So he has a big passion for gardening and learning about all this stuff because that's what he loves to do. Now, once again, you may not be able to afford a setup like this, but you don't need to. So what can we learn from my visit here at my friend's place today that's like the master extraordinaire indoor gardener? Well, we can learn a few things. Number one, you want to be making some compost tea. And you want to aerate your compost tea very well. If you can afford the expensive Airstone, go for that. If not, the cheap Airstone from an aquarium shop is going to do. Number two, the temperature of your compost tea is very important. I mean, he literally feeds his plants the compost tea to get them to look this lush. Now, no reason why you can't do that for your outside plants as well. In addition, you can foliar feed your compost tea, which means you spray the compost tea on the leaves, and the leaves have some receptors to absorb nutrients through their skin, just like we can absorb nutrients through our skin. Actually, sometimes you might see me with a little patch on my neck, and I've had a few people say, John, what's that patch on your neck? Are you like a chain smoker before and have a nicotine patch? No. That's a B12 patch so that I can absorb B12 through my skin instead of through my digestive system. So once again, plants can absorb nutrients through their leaves and not just their root system. What else can we learn? Well, we learned today that if you want to grow fruiting crops, then you need high power HPS lights so that you can grow them to production. Now, if you don't have high power lights, you can still grow them. They're just not going to yield optimally and do as well. So I'd say wait until the weather is right, to grow outside. It's a lot easier. But that being said, on the same token, you can grow with an LED light or fluorescent lights or even just an incandescent light that lights up your house. You could easily grow leafy green crops such as lettuce and kales and herbs and things that don't actually fruit out because you want to eat the leaves. And this trip I also encourage them to grow a lot more leafy greens because those are immediately pickable and eatable. I mean, you have some basil in here. Actually, let me do the taste test on the basil here. Wow, man. That's a nice, strong, I could really taste the aromatics on there. That's actually a high quality, man, that's high quality shit, man. So in any case, I hope you remember those two things, compost tea, and if you are or want to grow inside during the winter time, focus on the leafy greens. I mean, if you want to grow some of the fruiting crops, it's going to be a lot harder. I would encourage you to grow the fruiting crops inside to keep them going and then plant them out when the season's right. Because growing them indoors, you're just probably not going to yield a lot unless you have some high power lights so that the plant could make all the photosynthesis it needs to produce optimally. So once again, this is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com, encouraging you to grow any way you can, whether you could grow outside of the winter or inside with lighting to grow some leafy greens, or even in your kitchen, and I'll have an episode on this soon, to grow some sprouts without supplemental lighting. You can do it, and I'm here to help. We'll see you next time, and keep on growing.